Did you know John O'Keefe?
Yes.
How did you know him?
I met John for the first time at his sister's. They had a benefit for his sister in 2000, I think 13. I met John there for the first time. And then years later, our kids got involved with sports together, and they became very close. As they became close, I became very close with John and his family.
Hi, Crime Junkie Jurors. We just wrapped up with day 3. It is April 24th, 2025, and it was an unexpected half day in court. Now, the day started out with a bang when Judge Cannoni made a surprise ruling that shocked me, and I know it stunned a lot of other trial followers. The judge ruled that Brennan can play the clip that he asked to show the jury, where Karen Reed says that Mrs. O'Keefe said it looks like John got hit by a car. Now, the way that Karen says it, it sounds like she's kind of imitating an accusatory tone. And here's why this is shocking that it's actually being allowed in. The clip doesn't really seem to hold a lot of evidentiary value, if any. But more importantly, it's more prejudicial than probative, which is a legal term to basically say that it's kind of dangerous for a jury to see this because it can improperly influence their decision. Something is considered probative if it is able to prove or disprove some fact that's in question. But there's no fact in question that this clip seems that it could actually clear up. So this could potentially be a huge appellate issue later. And the ruling on allowing it in kind of left me speechless. So it was played for the jury, and reporters in the courtroom said that when it came on, the speakers were very loud and it made it sound kind of shrill. And they said that a couple of jurors actually kind of jumped when it started. So I don't know, you can't unring that bell. So we'll see what comes from that. Now, Canton Fire Department's Daniel Whitley was back on the stand today, and cross-examination got very fiery. Defense attorney David Inetti wanted to really hammer home the changes in Whitley's testimony, which has kind of been a common theme so far with the defense strategy. Now, the main issue here, Inetti says that Whitley never mentioned Karen Reed saying anything about John O'Keefe being in the snow for many hours back in 2022 when he testified to the grand jury. Then the following year in 2023, that's the very first time that he says that Whitley actually mentioned this being in the snow for many hours. Then at trial a year after that, Whitley then says that Karen asked a question about surviving in the snow, which was another different version. And now during this trial, he says that Whitley changed that question to a statement and said that Karen Reed told him something about John O'Keefe being out in the snow for many hours. Now, Brennan tries to explain this during redirect, asking about grand jury testimony being more vague or generalized and kind of suggesting that small changes aren't really a sign of deception or changing testimony. Now, there were 2 witnesses called just to verify video evidence. There was one from Waterfall and then one from C.F. McCarthy's. And then we heard from Mike Camerano, one of John O'Keefe's closest friends. Now, y'all, this one was tough. You could see the pain in Mike's face, and you could hear it in his voice when he talked about the loss of his friend. Mike met up with John O'Keefe that night, and they went out for some drinks at C.F. McCarthy's. Another friend met up with them later, and then he says Karen met them. Now, reporters in the courtroom said that when Mike mentioned Karen going, he looked over at her sitting at the defense table. Now, Mike left the bar and went home, and the next morning, he woke up to his phone ringing, letting him know that John O'Keefe did not make it home. He said he was panicked, and he went to John O'Keefe's house to pick up his niece because he knew that she was alone. He said that she was distraught. Now, when John's brother Paul called to tell Mike about John's death, he said he took John's niece back to the house to be with family. And he said he thinks that she already knew. Through cross-examination, Inetti leads Mike through a series of questions, and we hear that he trusted both John and Karen with the kids. And the only time that he could really recall John getting upset is when Karen would buy expensive things for the kids or spoil them. Now, Brennan asked about jealousy on redirect, and Mike said that John and Karen kind of did everything together, and he thought that Karen didn't want other women around John, but he didn't know of any like big arguments or vulgarities in their relationship. Trooper Garino was brought back today as well, and the jury heard texts between Karen and John that happened throughout the course of that day. Now, they showed the full exchange in this trial instead of just a few cherry-picked ones, and that kind of gives some context to the day going into that evening. There was an argument in the morning that they talk about, and Karen says that John really hurt her. You can tell that she wants to talk about it, and she wants to get it worked out or squashed, and he isn't ready to address it yet. So he just kind of ignores her calls. He tells her that he's with the kids and he's with his dad and he can't talk yet. So they go back and forth, and then they start talking about plans for the night and meeting up. Now, John eventually tells Karen to come there because he's relying on her for a ride, and he wants her to stay with him for the weekend. He even actually gets upset that she has a plumber come fix her hot water heater when he said that he and his dad could have done it. So now, I asked during the live stream if these were normal relationship issues or if this was something bigger. And we actually did a poll on whether or not the Crime Junkie jurors in chat have had text exchanges like this. So 24% of you said that you have not, and the rest said that you have either had them with your ex or your current spouse or both. So let me know in comments, what do you think about the text communications? Is that normal or is it something bigger? Now, finally, there were 5 video clips that were played. And they all kind of centered around interviews where Karen Read was talking about drinking that night. So she said that her drinks at the bar were very weak and it tasted like there was no alcohol in them. So she says that that's why she added the shots. She also said that the number of drinks that the prosecutors are counting is really kind of half of that because the drinks were so weak. And she says that there were some drinks that she didn't even touch. But more importantly from these clips, the jury hears Karen in those clips admit that she was buzzed and she should not have been driving. In one clip, she describes wondering after she found John if she could have hit him or clipped him. So my biggest takeaway from the day, don't drink and drive and don't text anything that you don't want to read in court. But my other big takeaway was definitely just the love and friendship that Mike Camerano shared with John O'Keefe. It's so endearing, and the loss that he suffered is just heartbreaking. And we hear a lot about John O'Keefe as an officer and a lot about him as an uncle, but it was really touching to also hear about him as a dear friend. Now, tomorrow, the jury will be going to view 34 Fairview Road, and it's expected to be another half day. So we'll be back live for court right here on Crime Junkie Jury.